motion will be it resolved, the Inuvik Town Council hereby adopts the agenda as presented. I need a mover and a second. Councilor Merrill and Deputy Mayor Kulikowski. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Declaration of conflict of interest or pecuniary interest. Councilor Dublin. Blonde moment, sorry.
Yes, 8.2.
8.2. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, moving on. Item 4, delegations, presentations, or petitions. Anything? Nothing. Item 5, public question period. Did you receive any questions, S.A. Ovid?
No, I did not.
Thank you. Item 6.1, minutes of the May 9th and 11th, 2022 council meetings. Be it resolved, the new town council hereby adopts the minutes of May 9th and 11th, 2022 council meetings as presented. I need a mover and a seconder. Councilor Devlin and Councilor Merrill. Any discussion? Any corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Any questions on the actions items list? Item 7.1. Nothing. Item 8.1, we have two options on this one. The administration did make some changes. The first option for a motion is be it resolved that Inuvik Town Council hereby approves the strategic priorities chart as presented, or be it resolved that Inuvik Town Council hereby requests administration to review and adjust the operational initiatives section of the strategic priorities chart based on revisions made by council to the presented chart. I need a mover and a seconder, and then we'll decide which motion to proceed with. Councilor Merrill and Councilor Harder. Discussion. Deputy Mayor Kulikowski.
Just a clarification, this is the latest updated one?
It should be, yes.
Okay, just under finance and administration, there's some March, May, and April dates. Is that 2023?
No, it's a typo on my part.
Okay.
It's probably the health and safety manual, which should have been in October.
Anything further?
And the payroll decision is actually 2023.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? Councilor Devlin.
I guess it's just a similar question around cold weather testing working group. for Economic development and tourism. As an April deadline.
That one we didn't change, unfortunately. I would say given what we have with developing the working group, it's probably going to be later in the year just because of timing and staffing issues. So I would, if it's okay with council, I will put it like a November on there.
Anything further? Seeing none, which option do you prefer, 1 or 2? Councilor Devlin.
Well, with these couple of minor changes at this point to the operational initiatives portion, I would go with option number 2. Okay.
Is everyone in agreement with that? Councilor Merrill,
Just to clarify, basically, then we're just changing a few dates.
I'm sorry?
So what we're really saying here under option 2 is that we'll be changing a few dates.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, on option number 2, all those in favor? Carried. Item 8.2, Counselor Devlin, you had a conflict?
There's a representative from the NAF here.
Yes.
If you'd like to come up to the table, turn the mic on, there may be some questions for you. So the motion will be, should you accept it, be it resolved that Inuvik Town Council hereby approves an in-kind donation to the Great Northern Arts Festival for 2022 to include the following: donation of the community hall, arena dry floor, curling club dry floor, and curling club lounge, community lounge, events pavilion, and other items as per the letter of request from the Great Northern Arts Festival, and building maintenance assistance of Midnight Sun Complex staff during the festival. Whew, that's a long one. I need a mover and a seconder. Councilor Merrow and Deputy Mayor Kulikowski. Do you have any questions for the representative from Great Northern Arts? Deputy Mayor Kulikowski.
Thank you. I'm just trying to find the place. In one of the letters, you had listed out your co-sponsors. Oh, never mind. No, this was from 2021. That's all right. I was gonna say it had listed us at a much lower value than what this request was for, but that was because it was for the previous year. So
Oh, okay.
I take back my hand raised. I don't have a question.
One thing is I need to make sure I have an accurate estimate.
You'd have to turn your mic on the side there.
Power.
There you go.
I need to make sure I have an accurate estimate of the value of the pavilion donation to make sure I'm adequately putting the town at the right level.
Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. You got your request.
Very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Yes, sir.
I have Councilor Gowans on the screen here, so.
Yeah.
And.
Okay, you can let me know. Welcome back, Councilor Devlin. Thank you. For your information, the motion was carried.
Thank you.
Next is item 8.3, amendments to the fees and charges policy. The motion will be it resolved, the Inuvik Town Council hereby approves amending the fees and charges policy FM.021 Schedule A as presented. I need a mover and a seconder. Deputy Mayor Kulikowski and Councilor Merrill. Any discussion? Deputy Mayor.
Just a point of clarification for myself, the items that are changing here is just things that got pulled out of the coming bylaws in the next motions?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? All those in favor? Motion is carried. 8.4, outside beer garden event policy. The motion will be it resolved that Inuvik Town Council hereby approves amending the outside beer garden event policy FB 004 as presented. I need a mover and a seconder. Councilor Harder and Deputy Mayor Kulikowski. Discussion. Deputy Mayor.
I'll let Tony go first.
Okay, Councilor Devlin.
So I just had a question. I went over the event policy. Do we not require any pro serve, smart serve certification municipally? Or I know territorial, there's necessarily that requirement, but have we ever discussed this in the past? Pro serve or safe serve?
It hasn't been discussed in the past. It would be under whatever rules and regulations go through. License permit versus we have no rules.
No, I understand that there may not be a territorial rule, but that doesn't mean that we can't, exceed standards as well. So I was just wondering a question about that. Thank you.
Any other comments? Deputy Mayor Kulikowski?
Thank you. Please stop me if I get too deep into the weeds here, but just after reading through, I just had a couple questions. in regards to the beer gardens at the Ball Diamond, because of, with the land transfer, and this is now in our name, and, you know, so we need to make sure that this is properly in place. Is there any opportunity for the Ball League to partner with the town to say, like, get the town's approval for the entire season, and then they would only have to have their groups go out and get that license for each event? Or will each individual group have to come and do both steps, the town and the GNWT each time?
I believe the way we've got it set up, we've changed the wording, so it's, and if we, the thing we brought in new is that application where they can list out all the different events for the year. They can put them all in.
Okay, awesome. No, that's great. And then my last question, just, there is the note near the end of the document that mentions, that the group is responsible for the final empty of the porta potties to ensure, you know, cleanliness after the event. Does the town have the reverse responsibility of making sure that it's empty for the beginning of the event?
I would assume so, yes.
And that's all for my questions. Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Merrill.
I would like to support what Councillor Devlin said about having the requirement that people do the, I'm not quite sure what the term is, the NWT, but it's a short course you can do in basically responsible serving. You can do it online, but it just makes people really conscious of when you need to say to somebody, that's enough.
It's not a stringent course that they have. I've taken it before myself.
It's not stringent, but I think it requires people to remember what they're doing.
Deputy Mayor Kulikowski.
Well, I agree with the idea of having people have serve right. I feel like putting it into the town's beer garden policy creates an administrative strain on whatever group would be applying. Where, I don't know, it's like, where if it came from the GNWT and it was part of getting your actual liquor permit, but this, like, we would have to make sure that there's something available for everyone to take all the time. And so I just don't want to add administrative burden either to ourselves or to another group that may be applying. I don't know
Councillor Gallons would like to speak.
if there's anything there.
Councillor Gallons.
Councillor Gallons.
Thank you. I guess my question is, have there been issues in the past with past events of over serving from the ball associations? Have there been clear examples where there's been hard examples that we can talk about?
Right now, I can't comment on that. We have never had any comments to us regarding that formally. And in the past, because the diamonds were under GNWT land and not town land, therefore it was a little harder from a jurisdiction point of view as well. But we had answered your question. Short answer is no.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Merrill.
I'd just like to clarify, I'm not speaking just about beer gardens at the Ball Diamond or in that group, but beer gardens anywhere in town. We need one consistent policy.
Was Councillor Gallons concerned about over serving? These events are regulated by the Liquor Board, Liquor Act. As such, normally as a liquor inspector comes around and make sure that people aren't being overserved and that they're following all the regulations of territorial government looks for. So maybe that helps to clarify a few things.
Councillor Gallons.
Sorry,
Councillor Gallons has his hand up again.
yeah. Councillor Gallons.
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess the intention behind my question is along Deputy Mayor Kulikowski's comments is if we had examples where there was issues of over-serving patrons at the events, any event, I'd understand why there's a need to put this responsibility on the proponents. That's what I'm trying to understand is we're asking for an additional requirement, and I'm just trying to understand other reasons, or is there hard reasons behind that requirement that we can actually fall back on and say, this is why we've had this in the past.
Okay, thank you.
So the one thing is also under the Liquor Act, and that the town has no jurisdiction, like we can't go in and find people for it and things like that, only the liquor inspector can. So again, it would be, in those areas, we don't even have the jurisdiction to go in and check and see if they're actually violating it under the current. It's only, as the mayor pointed out, it's only the liquor inspector that's allowed to do that.
Councillor Devlin.
Yeah, well, the question I was asking wasn't necessarily one of for punitive purposes. It was more for community betterment purposes. It was just to better educate us. And to Councillor Gowan's sort of question about whether there's something in the past, this is to prevent the future something, so that we're not sitting here after some terrible accident 6 months from now saying, what could we have done better? What didn't we do? So that's why I asked the question, just to see what appetite there might be to sort of formalize something, and like Councilor Miro suggested, for all our events. And again, it's to sort of try to change our community for the better, slowly but surely. It is a low cost, short course. I think it's $20, $25. So I mean, there could be even some discussion of perhaps even subsidizing some of that cost should we need to. But again, I just wanted to put it out there on the table just to say that, it's just to think about and to sort of build into future betterment of our community. Thank you.
Any further comments? We should defer this then. So what are your wishes? Do you wish to vote on it as the motion reads, or do you wish to refer it back to administration? Any comments? Deputy Mayor Kulikowski.
Oh, I would like to vote on it. I think it's important we get it in place before the ball season starts. I know I keep saying ball, but before the outdoor season starts. And then if there are amendments, we can always make them later, or maybe there's even an opportunity to send a letter to Liquor Commission to suggest a requirement or something, but yeah, I would move to vote.
Thank you. Councillor Merrill.
I notice here that it requires obtaining a liquor permit, which is from the GNWT. So that likely covers this off, and if it doesn't, like Deputy Mayor Kulikowski says, we could amend it later.
I think you're correct, Councillor Merrill. Any infractions, of course, would jeopardize any future permits of the organization. So I think that part is covered as well. So do you wish to vote on it now?
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. 8.5. Cancel June 6th and 8th Committee of the Whole and regular council meetings. A motion will be that Inuvik Town Council hereby cancels the June 2022 Committee of the Whole meeting and the June 8th, 2022 regular council meeting. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Merrill and Councillor Devlin. Discussion.
Councillor Gowans.
Councillor Gowans.
Sorry about that. I guess my question is, given that the Hay River conference has been rescheduled to the fall, do we need to cancel these dates now?
I think not only are councillors going to be away, our SAO is also going to be away, and his backup is on maternity leave. The acting SAO at that time will be our Public Works Director, Mr. Campbell. So it's rather complicated. I don't think it's entirely possible to hold those meetings. Any further discussion? Are you ready to vote on the motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Bylaws, item 9.1. Inuvik Fire Department Establishment Bylaw 2687 FC 22. Motion will be it resolved, the Inuvik Town Council hereby gives first reading to bylaw 2687 FC 22, a bylaw to establish and regulate a fire department. I need a mover and a seconder. Deputy Mayor Kulikowski, Councilor Merrill. Any discussion? All those in favor? First reading is finished. Be it resolved, the Inuvik Town Council hereby gives second reading to bylaw 2687 FC 22, a bylaw to establish and regulate a fire department. I need a mover and a seconder for that. Councilor Devlin and Councilor Harder. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. 9.2 Emergency Management Bylaw. Be it resolved, the Inuvik Town Council hereby gives first reading to bylaw 2688 FC 22, a bylaw for control of the emergency management plan. A mover and a seconder. Councilor Merrill, Deputy Mayor Kulikowski. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Second reading, be it resolved, the Inuvik Town Council hereby gives second reading to bylaw 2688 FC 22, a bylaw for control of an emergency management plan. A mover and a seconder.
Mr. Mayor, if Councilor Gallant's been putting his hand up, unfortunately, you can't see him for some of these, so he
Is that
has
to vote or to ask a question?
to make the motion to, as a mover.
Okay, just let me know when he does.
So he just did.
Okay, so he wants to move second reading?
Yes.
Moved by Councilor Gowan, seconded by Deputy Mayor Kulikowski. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried.
That was first reading.
Sorry?
That was first reading, you just did.
I did the first reading. That was second.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, sorry,
I did.
the pages go through.
Okay, 9.3. Protective Service Fee Bylaw. Be it resolved, the Inuvik Town Council hereby gives first reading to bylaw 2689 FC 22, a bylaw to establish protective services fees for service. A mover and a seconder. Discussion. Motion's carried. Be it resolved that Inuvik Town Council hereby gives second reading to bylaw 2689 FC 22, bylaw to establish protected service fees for service. I need a mover and a second. Councilor Harder and Councilor Devlin. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. 9.4. Smoke detector repeal bylaw. It resolved that it Inuvik Town Council hereby gives first reading to bylaw 2690 FC 22. A bylaw to repeal a bylaw no longer required. I need a mover and a second. Councilor Merrill and Deputy Mayor Kulikowski. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Motion's carried. Second reading. Be it resolved that Inuvik Town Council hereby gives second reading to bylaw 2689 F. Hang on. 2690. FC 22, a bylaw to repeal a bylaw no longer required. A mover and a seconder. Councilor Harder and Councilor Devlin. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. 9.5, fire hydrant bylaw. Be it resolved, the Inuvik Town Council hereby gives first reading to bylaw 2691 FC 22 fire hydrant bylaw. Mover and a seconder. Councilor Merrill and Councilor Harder. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Second reading. Be it resolved, the Inuvik Town Council hereby gives second reading to bylaw 2691 FC 22 fire hydrant bylaw. Mover and a seconder. Deputy Mayor Kulikowski and Councilor Devlin. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Nine point six, senior and disabled exemption bylaw. Be it resolved that Inuvik Town Council hereby gives first reading to bylaw 2692, TAX 22, senior citizens and disabled persons property tax relief bylaw. Moved by Councilor Devlin and Councilor Harder. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Second reading. It resolved the Inuvik Town Council hereby gives second reading bylaw 2692 tax 22 senior citizens disabled persons property tax relief bylaw. Mover and a seconder. Deputy Mayor Kulikowski and Councilor Harder. All in favor? Discussion.
Sorry, just a quick question. So this bylaw, I mean, this is just a change of a bylaw we already have existing, but we have to make a bylaw in order to enforce the GNWT rule on this? Is that how that works?
No, not to enforce the GNWT. This is what this does. The GNWT has an act that says they will pay for 50% and you apply for it. What this bylaw is for the town to how we want to handle the other 50%.
Oh, I see.
So this is saying that the town will reimburse this, the person, the other 50%, giving a net of zero in the property tax.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. 9.7. Interest on unpaid taxes bylaw. Be it resolved that Inuvik Town Council hereby gives first reading to bylaw 2693 tax 22 levying of a penalty and outstanding taxes bylaw. A mover and a seconder. Councilor Harder and Councilor Merrill. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Second reading. Be it resolved, the Inuvik Town Council hereby gives second reading to bylaw 2693 tax 22 levying of a penalty and outstanding taxes bylaw. Mover and a seconder. Councilor Devlin, Deputy Mayor Kulikowski. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. That's the bylaws. I lost my voice yet. Department head reports. 10.1 protective services report. Any discussion? Seeing none. Economic development and tourism report. Any discussion? Public services report. Any discussion on that? Oh, sorry, Councilor Devlin.
I just wanted to just ask how the move is going into the new building.
Okay.
What to share with us.
I can give an update on that, it's moving along. We've faced a couple of technical issues, but we've got pretty well sorted out. It's finished. I've been over there a number of times, like I said, with getting it's now connected communication wise to our network to this office. There is one little technical glitch regarding the phones, but that's a minor one. Other than that, and we will probably come out with something here that have council, get council pre-event showing, and that in the very near future. But it's going along well because of staffing and a few other issues and that, but everything's pretty well set up. If if Director Chalice wants to add to that, she's certainly welcome to.
Thank you.
Anything further? Okay, 10.3, Public Services Report. Any questions for Director Campbell? Councillor Merrill?
Just a quick question. Is the street sweeping starting soon? It's been asked several times. Asked of me, not of you, sorry.
Oh,
Sorry.
I have my room ready, yes.
Me too.
The truck is ready to go. We will be out there shortly. Um, There's supposed to be sleet, freezing sleet on the weekend again. So it's, we don't like to take it off until that's gone because it gets very, very slippery with smooth pavement. It's- The last 2 weekends in a row, it's snowed, so.
Yeah.
It's tough to judge when to take it off, but from past experience, every time we take it off, it snows and everybody slips and slides and becomes bumper cars. And then they say, why did you take it off the road so quick? So
Councillor Merrill?
One other question. Is there a way to not have a street sweeper go through the downtown core between 8:20 and 8:40 this summer?
we will get them a watch and a time.
And I will thank you.
The plan
Any further
is to
questions?
actually do the downtown early in the morning before 8 and be done downtown by 8.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Kolkowski?
Thank you. Just in the paragraph where it talks about the garbage bins and stuff not making it into the bins. Noticeably on Wolverine, it's quite bad. And I don't know if, have we done like assessment to see if we need to put an extra bin over there? Is that why it's not making it in? Is it all full? And then second to that, I guess, a question about public education in like if the worst parts of town, if people should receive a letter at their home specifically, or how we deal with that. I just know that it's really bad and I've been hearing many things about it, so, yeah.
I can answer about the bins because I've been by there when there's been garbage on the outside of the bins and checked in the bins, and a lot of times the bins are not full. There's boxes on the outside, there's garbage on the outside. I think it doesn't make it into the bins. And it's a large bin for 6, or I can't remember if it's a 6-plex or an 8-plex, but anywhere else in town, that's sufficient for that many rows or that many houses. Actually, there's places in town that have more houses on them than that. And what was the other question?
I can answer it.
Okay.
So regarding communication and that, right now, due to our staffing issues, it's very difficult. We're having some challenges with the communication part of it the best we can, and having to prioritize a few things. So otherwise, once we get stabilized a little better here in the near future, we do plan on doing inundating the community. There's a lot of things.
Councillor Dedler?
Could you just update us on the email we got this afternoon about water? Back on water issues?
I don't, you might have gotten an email. I just saw the
Post on Facebook.
yes, okay. Yeah, it was so that we don't end up with no water. We were having issues with our water trains producing water. So in order to not run out of water, I asked Grant to put that on so that we don't end up in that situation of having no water. the water trains are back up and running. It's a very difficult time right now. The water went from a turbidity of 12 last week to up to 400 yesterday. So we're constantly changing the doses of the chemicals we put in. We're constantly monitoring how much sand is in the units. We had one of the trains go down and we actually have to physically add chemicals to the filter to shock it to get it so that it's not plugging, because the run span of it went from 24 hours down to an hour. We had one HMI screen that picked today to freeze up and wouldn't let us operate the other train, and then it got stuck in a backwash. When we went to start the third train, it wouldn't let us do any, it wouldn't allow us to backwash it because the other one was stuck. So after playing around and doing a whole bunch of things, we plan is to leave that announcement up till we got the tower back to a high enough rate that we can backwash our filters without fear of running out of water. That's what it was about.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further questions? Okay. 10.4, Community Services Report. Any questions? Deputy Mayor Kulakowski.
Thank you. Just, could we be reminded of what the actual community cleanup days are? Or have they started?
Ask Jesse.
The groups going out for the community zones?
You're talking about the cleanup days?
Yes.
Well,
No.
Steve actually sent out to all our different user groups that usually apply for zones and whatnot. And he's put up a poster. The exact start date, I believe, is in around the 1st of June. I don't have it off the top of my head. So we're going to take groups that want to do zones first. And then he's indicated that individuals and families can apply as of June 1st. So if we haven't got rid of all our zones, then we'll open it up to what we call gray groups or individuals or families. He remarked too that he did a circuit around town, and he remarked too that in around Wolverine's really bad. He says nobody is going to want that zone. If it doesn't go, what we're going to do is we're going to chunk it up, because if an individual or families want to take a certain little area, they may not have enough numbers to do a whole zone. But then we'll take, for example, if it was Wolverine, the one pocket would be worth more than, like, we take the zone worth and we chunk it into bite-sized pieces. So we have a couple groups right now that are we consider gray groups, and they're already signed up and waiting to get a zone. So yeah, and I believe he's going to run it. He was going to run it a little bit longer, but run it right through to when before the ADE starts. Oh, sorry, Jackie just brought it up. So starts May 23rd is when he was starting to June 13th is what he had advertised.
I guess my next question then, understanding that communications wise, we are a little bit low on staffing, but perhaps Mr. Mayor, would you be willing to maybe contact Wanda and see if you could get on there and talk about community cleanup?
Sure.
And just to try to get it out there as much as we can and push it that, you know, that zones are there to be taken, and also like community pride and, you know, all those fun things that we think about every year in May when that snow melts. So, thank you.
Thank you for the suggestion. Any other questions? Nothing? Thank you, Lisa. So a motion will be it resolved, the Inuvik Town Council hereby adopts the following staff reports as presented. Item 10.1, protective services, 10.2, economic development and tourism, 10.3, public services, and item 10.4, community services. I need a mover and a seconder. Councilor Merrill and Deputy Mayor Kulikowski, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Information items, we have the Aurora Research Institute with various projects. Item 12, council concerns. Deputy Mayor Kulikowski.
Sorry. Just one last one when we're talking about cleanup. Within our bylaws, is there any duty to clean up the areas around businesses, commercial spaces? Or is that just kind of a given that people would clean up their spaces? Thank you.
I would say it would come under the inside. There's no distinction in our bylaws for unsightly properties and stuff like that, whether it's commercial or residential.
And so that would include like even if you have a business on Main Street, keeping the areas around your building clean would be just part of the unsightly premises.
As far as I'm aware, but I will do some more research on that.
Thank you.
Councilor Devlin.
It's more of a comment than a concern. And I didn't speak to this before because I was obviously recused. I won't speak to it specifically. I just wanted to say that the actual application of the Great Northern Arts Festival was excellent. And I love to see that from anybody applying for donations, the amount of detail they provided. And I had nothing to do with it. I just appreciated it when I actually took a look at it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything further? Councilor Wayne.
I didn't miss this on May 11th, 9th and 11th. I did tell you I wouldn't be here, but I didn't email it into you. I did tell you because you had no one to attend an event and I was one of the only guys left to attend. And I told you I'd be far north. I wouldn't be here for the 9th and 11th.
Thank you.
I don't know if it makes a difference, but it says without notice both meetings.
Thank you, Councilor Wayne.
And I don't, I'm not in town during May usually, luckily tonight, so.
Next, we have in camera. I need a motion to go in camera. Councilor Merrill and Councilor Devlin. First item.
No, let me,
Sorry.
go ahead. Sorry, I wait.
The first item I'll ask SAO Hood to address.
No, we need to have a vote and then stop the recordings and everything.
Everybody else is.
Be it resolved, Inuvik Town Council hereby moves in camera at
Okay, that's fine.
7:45. All those in favor? Motion's carried. You ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, cool.